Okay, so what I just want to do is just a quick update of Type's video about the van. So the van is almost 3 years old now, and I have a video on the channel. We visited Lochderg, and when we went to Lochderg, I did a bit of a review on the various aspects of the van, and just to say what we thought of it. And I think at that stage the van was, I think we had it about 2 months, 3 months, that kind of thing. We got it in January and that was probably March. So here we are now, coming up on 3 years, and just to say an update on those kind of things. So, okay, so let's have a look. So starting at the start, we may as well start here. So the first thing to show you is, if I can see in here we have they're in here. Anyway, what we have in there is the indicators. So if we're basically overtaking, they flash to say. So what I'd say is we've had no trouble with them. And they are a good investment. I think they were good. I don't know how much they cost. I don't think they were that expensive, but they're very handy to have. So when you're overtaking on motorways or just passing anybody, or someone coming up on the inside of you, your blind spot. So no issues there. The heated electric folding mirrors, no problems. We've had no problems with them whatsoever. These bars we got fitted, they just look nice. I suppose, look, on some level they probably protect the van if we ever, if we go off-road. That's the idea, that what it is, to protect this side of the van from rocks and bits and pieces. The one on the far side has started to show some signs of corrosion. That's an issue. The alloy wheels, very nice, no problems with them. Just difficult to keep clean, obviously, but no problems there. And the tyres are the same tyres that we started on. No problems, I'm glad to say. Going very well. The LED lights, they were, let me just see. The LED lights, no, that's not going to work. The LED lights, very good. At first the issue with them was that they were very bright and we were getting flashed a lot by people when we were driving along on the roads. But I have to say, we don't seem to get flashed anymore, so either they're being adjusted by VW or the brightness levels has dropped a little bit, I think. But I have to say, they're excellent. I would definitely recommend that you get those lights. They're fantastically brilliant when you're driving on back roads. I suppose the nature of camper vanning is that you'll be on a lot of back roads, so very good, they're excellent. The sensors, no problems, they work fine. Fog lights, no issues. So the engine, okay, so this is where we start to run into problems. So we've had a couple of issues with the engine. Just adjust that now. The engine, we've had a couple of problems with the engine. The first issue was the preheater. We were getting a warning on the preheater that it was acting up a little bit, so VW fixed that under warranty. It turns out it wasn't the preheater, it was the junction box, and the junction box was letting in moisture because it was cracked, and what it was doing was just shorting out and sending a signal, so they fixed that. The second issue we had was they thought the AdBlue system was acting up. So the AdBlue system, when we were topping it up, was saying it wasn't registering being filled, and what it meant was at some stage it was counting down the miles, and we potentially, because obviously when you run out of AdBlue, when you get down to a certain level, the AdBlue the engine won't start, so that's obviously dangerous. So we sent it back to them, and what they did was they spent a few weeks then trying to fix that. We have another video on that, what went on. Basically what it was is that the CPU, so the computer that runs the engine, was faulty. That had to be replaced. So that, the man hours involved and the pieces to get that done was $5,000. So we did a video on that. So that was obviously an issue. And now the van is coming up on its 3-year anniversary, so we'll be out of warranty soon enough. But other than that, other than those two major issues, there's been no issues. And we have the 204 engine, so it's fantastic. I mean, when the van is fully loaded, it's just effortless, no problem at all. Up hills, driving across fields, driving through sand, snow, everything, just fantastic, no issues whatsoever. So the sensor, let's see now, the radar for the tracking, for the adaptive cruise control, I have to say, excellent, absolutely excellent. I use that all the time, no problems with that whatsoever. From time to time, the only thing you have to be careful of is that if it's on and say you come to a junction and there's a road sign in the middle of it or something like that, sometimes it'll give you a false alarm to say that it sees as a stationary object. That's only happened once or twice, but other than that, I have to say it's an excellent piece of kit. I would definitely highly recommend that you get the adaptive cruise control, just for when you're driving anywhere, when you're on long drives. Like we drove here to Donegal and it's 4-hour drive, and I'd say I must have had my feet off both pedals for easily 2 of those hours, you know, so you can rest your feet, because what you can do is on the twisty windy country roads you can lock onto a car in front of you and then just follow it, and then on the motorways you can do something similar as well. So it's very good. So the adaptive cruise control I highly recommend. Anything else out here? So the pop-up roof, just that so you can see it. The pop-up roof. What would I say about the pop-up roof? The pop-up roof is excellent, but the material, the nature of it is, the canvas material that you get with the pop-up roof is very light, and it's not really windproof. It is waterproof in that it wicks water down the front of it, anything touching the inside of it. So we had to get the Pucerscreen, and we learned that the hard way. So the first few times we went away, we were frozen with the cold, because the material just, you know, a strong wind just blows straight through it. It doesn't keep you warm at all. So we got that Pucerscreen, and we did a video on that as well. And I have to say, the Pucerscreen, when properly fitted in underneath the bars, up close to it, it does a brilliant job of keeping us warm. It cuts down the noise, it cuts out the light, so it's grand and dark, it's warmer, it's quieter, and it's just more comfortable as well. And it wasn't that expensive. I think it was about 150 quid, I'm going to say. It wasn't that expensive considering what you'd pay on some of the more expensive ones, so that's very good. With the electrics, no problem at all, and the water. Apart from this being a little bit fiddly to use, I find it a little bit awkward to use. I don't think there's any issues at all with the water. No issues there at all. This works fine. We got this, there's our cable. So originally, this cable was originally 50 meters long, thinking I'd need I was a novice at the time, so we've cut it down, we've halved the size of it, so that's about, well, that's obviously 25 meters long, so you can see 25 meter cable is plenty. You'd never have any issues really. The rear LED lights, fine, no issues there. What else have we got? We have the bike rack. So with the bike rack, what would I say about the bike rack? The bike rack is, we don't use it a whole lot. We got it, we have bikes, and there's no issues with it. It's grand, you know, there's no problems at all with the bike rack whatsoever. So, but again, because we don't do a whole lot of cycling, it tends to sort of see very little action. We bought this bag recently and we're trying it out to get some use out of the bike rack. So what we'll do is, it's a waterproof bag, kind of travel bag. So the idea being is that we can stick all bits and pieces in it, and at least then we get to have some additional storage. So that's good. I had to fit, can you see that camera? I had to fit that camera myself. One of the options I didn't go for on the van was getting the rear reverse camera that sits in here, and that was a mistake. So I would definitely recommend that you get the reversing camera, because I didn't think I would need it because it has sensors all around, but definitely a mistake. So I got that little reversing camera off Amazon. It was as cheap as chips, and I fit it myself, so it's grand and handy, and that works out quite well. So then you have the roof box. So I'll show you the roof box. So the roof box, if you can see it, that's the roof box. So what I'd say about the roof box is that it was a great investment when we first got it. When we first got the roof box, we were delighted with it. And you can see it. It's very good. We throw all the bits and pieces up there, and I only got it as a kind of afterthought. When we were getting the van, I thought it'd be handy to have, but it turns out to be one of the best things that we got, because we can throw long objects into it that we don't have to cart into the van. Wet mats, anything. When you're kind of packing up at the end, you can fire loads of stuff up into the roof box. So that's that was a good investment. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll do the inside of the van now. Actually, just one thing, just on the roof, the mechanism and stuff like that. We've had no issues with it, but people do seem to have, they tend to have, I have noticed in some of the forums people have complained with issues where the system tends to, this mechanism can fail or something like that, but we've had no issues with that whatsoever. Okay, do the inside. Okay, so looking at the van, the door here is just the standard door, it's not the electric door. I did ask about getting the door, the electric door, but it wasn't an option when I was getting the van. But we don't have any trouble with it. It doesn't seem to have it. There's no issues with it whatsoever. You know, it just works. No problems there. Turn on some of these lights. What we have here is the wardrobe, and there's no issues with it. You know, no problems at all. I think the only thing I'd say with it is that I don't really use it. I think it's a bit of a waste of space. I think if the wardrobe was gone and this space was open in some way, it would be a better use of the space. I just think we tend not to use it. Vanessa uses it more than I do. She tends to put bits and pieces in it, but as you can see, it's a bit of a dumping ground. It is a wardrobe, but not really of any great shakes. What else have we got? So that's the other cupboard back, the other press back there. So you just slide that open, storage in there, and I have it wedged with other bits and pieces and stuff like that. This drawer, we have this drawer here. Again, we tend to keep summary stuff in here, like insect lights and bits and pieces and stuff like that as well. But we tend not to use. That's all we tend to use that for. We don't really take advantage of this drawer as storage in any kind of way, which is a bit of a waste. But it's a bit of an awkward one to use. The boot area, no problems whatsoever. That works fine. Having the lights back there and the USB port is handy. I actually have the shower. I have the shower as I have the shower option, and I think I haven't, like, I got it and I have used it, but I don't use it as much as I thought I would use it, to be fair. But it is handy to have, because it's handy when, say, you know, you're trying to rinse off, if you're at the beach and you're rinsing off sand and stuff like that, it is handy to have it. And it is, I have showered, but because it's cold you tend not to. So what would I say is, get the shower. It's handy to have, but not an absolute totally necessary. Okay, what else have we got back here? What else have we got? The fridge. So, any issues? The fridge itself, no problems whatsoever. But the mechanism here, the screw came undone. So, let's see, this mechanism. So that screw came away. So we had to get them to fix that as well, because it was just too awkward to fix. The fridge, fine, like I said, no problem. But what we do is we tend to, we put storage boxes in it. We've taken out the cage, because the cage wasn't really great. And we use those storage boxes instead. The table, no problems whatsoever. The presses, they're fine. No issues with the presses. You know, we worked those, our cupboards. The only thing I did do is I fit these, you can see those little extra lights. So I fit those extra lights just to have them in there. There's a video of that on the channel somewhere. Storage, no problem. Let me see. Those little baskets again are handy, just to stop stuff rattling around and bits and pieces like that. So you do need to kind of use those kind of compartmentalization kind of ideas. The sink, so far with the sink, no problems, no issues with the sink so far. And the cooker, no problems either. That works fine, no problems there. Let me just open it for you so you can see. No issues. So it's well used. Vanessa does a lot of cooking in it, well used. No problems. We tend not to use it, like we you know, when we're set it up with the tent, we don't cook in here. We use it on day trips, and the sink and bits and pieces. The only thing is, the newer versions have this split. That is a much better idea. Having one big piece of glass is a bit of a pain, because if you could open this to cook and leave this closed, you'd have storage here, and you'd have a surface here. So it's just more convenient. Or if you wanted to open the sink. The other thing I always live in fear, you know, having a kid in the van, is at some stage someone is going to break it and the whole thing would have to be replaced. And I'm assuming if it was smaller, it would be cheaper to replace. Okay, what else have we got? The lights, no problem. They work well, no issues. The blinds, No problems with them, except for this side here. They had to fix here. The trim was a problem, and actually the trim, where was it? This trim had started to come away, so I've had to fix those. Just super glued them down. But other than that was okay. What else have we got back here? Okay, so the heater, fantastic piece of kit. Highly recommend the heater. I think it comes with it as standard. I'm not sure. I'm assuming it does. But this, fantastic, absolute total lifesaver. When I first got the van, I didn't think we'd ever use it, but I have to say it is used a lot when we're away. It's just super handy to hop in, so convenient just to switch it on, and it warms up the van really, really quickly. And then you can leave it on a low setting, and it keeps the van lovely and toasty. So I have to say the heating is absolutely fantastic. Moving to the front of the van. What else is up here? Okay, so the captain's chairs, the rotating captain's chairs. They're grand. They're a bit of a pain. I don't know how. I see videos on YouTube, or I see people using it all the time, rotating them into position. I can never. I just find it very awkward to try and get them pushed forward and turned and everything, so they're not banging off the sides. But once they are in position, it's very handy, because you can see we've quite a lot of space here with the table. No issues with the table. What else? So moving into the front of the van. Oh, what have we got here? Oh, actually the electrics. So when we're on power. Hi guys, just doing a vid. When we're on power here, this is very handy. So this is just an adapter, and you plug it into here, and so this is an extension cord that we run off into the van to the tent, and we have bits and pieces powered off this, and then I'm charging my camera here as well. So no issues. And then you have down here, you have this other one. This is the one, can't think of what it's called, transformer or something like that. And I use that, so if you're driving around you can get power. So if you wanted to charge your laptop or charge your camera batteries or something like that, then that's very handy for that kind of stuff. There's another a lighter socket in here. We've had no issues. And what I do is I run, this is the power that runs for the what do we call it, the camera, you know, the dash cam. That's what it is. Okay, so moving to the front, the gearbox, the automatic gearbox, fantastic. No issues, no problems with that so far. It's very handy to have. When we drove to Germany, it was unbelievably handy. You know, it takes a lot of pressure off the drive and stuff like that. My only gripe with it always is the fact that this, because you see it's designed for left-hand drive. So when you first get it and you're trying to figure out where the gears are, because I suppose if VW was say an English company, then this would be on this side and you can see it more. So sometimes when you're first driving it, just when you're trying to get used to using the gearbox, you have to kind of sometimes bend over to have a look to see. It's only a minor thing to see which one of them is lit up. It's on the dash as well, it'll tell you which gear you're in, but I just think it's just a minor thing that I think I'd prefer if they did it so that this was on this side instead of just stuck in the middle. Okay, what else have we got? We don't have the sat nav in here. We have a TomTom sat nav, which is fine, but I didn't opt for this sat nav because I just thought it'd be more convenient to have this kind of sat nav than have it built into the van. I thought at some stage it might become obsolete, and also I just want to pay for the expense. And really, to be honest, I mean, phones these days, the sat navs, Google Maps is so good. There's a question really to needing a sat nav in here at all. We got the Dynaudio system, the Dynaudio sound system. That's what we got. So what do I think of that now? Because that was obviously expensive. It isn't expensive. It's a couple of grand. I think it's $2,500 for the Dynaudio system. But what would I say? I love having it. I do. I think it's fantastic. The sound out of it and everything like that, and I've done a video on it, is very good. But what I'd say is that it's definitely a very expensive optional extra. I don't know if you really need it. I mean, I have a Ford Mondeo as my main car at home that I drive, and the sound out of that is very good. But it's only when you get into this and you listen to the sound from it that it's very good. That the sound, how good the sound is in this. The only thing is, most of the time when you're listening to it, you're either suffering with wind noise because of the roof box or just the general wind noise from the van anyway, and turn it off. You suffer with wind noise from that, or you're driving on back roads and rattling and very little, general noise. So you tend to you don't get the full benefit of it. I think if you're sitting parked somewhere, you'd get the full benefit of the Dynaudio system. So what I would say is save yourself maybe a few bob and get just a decent sound system put in. I think that's when we first put it in. That's what most people were saying to us, that you were nuts, and they're probably right. But look, it's good to have. It's good to have, and I enjoy having it. I like music, so I think that's good. This blind tends to cause a few bits and pieces. You can see it's starting to fray a little bit. It never quite sit well in, so I have a feeling that's going to have to be replaced at some stage. I should probably have gotten them to do it before she's out of warranty, but whatever. Anything else in here of interest? Not really. That little screen over there, that's the screen for the reversing camera that I fitted myself. And what else is up here? What else? I think that's, I suppose the control system. So this is for the heater and this is for the fridge. No issues there. That all works very well. Up the bed. I almost forgot about the bed. So we're up here. So you can see this is the bed, the upper bed. Now you can see how dark it is. Like that's so that light down there will be the whole side, right? So that would be all around here. That's because the Pucerscreen doesn't reach all the way around to the end. So that's how dark it is, and it's much quieter now. So you can see how translucent it is. But so with this, it's much warmer. It's much comfier. And then we just have the bed. So myself and Vanessa sleep up here. That's where we sleep, and the little man sleeps down below. So there's no issues with that. I find it very comfortable now that we have the Pucerscreen. And obviously, this is a bed. This folds down into the bed, and there's no problems with that either. I think it folds down into the bed, and we haven't had any issues. It's a bit of a faff. Yeah, what you have to be careful of is that if you have something in behind the back, in behind the seat, and it rests down on top of it, what can happen is it can cause problems. So we have a porta potty, and what can happen is that back seat, the back of the seat can rest on top of it, and then when you're trying to open it, it means, so really it needs to go down flat onto absolutely nothing. That's my tip to you. That's the main, that's the only issue we've learned from that as well. You just have to be careful. That drawer is grand. It's a bit of a faff to open, it's just because the two opening things are identical, and I spent half my time pulling the wrong one, and then when I try to move the seat forward, I tend to open the drawer. It's a bit of a nuisance, but it's only a minor thing. And then we put our own carpet in. So that was the carpet that I put in when I originally got the van. I didn't think it would last as long as this, but it has, so that's fine. It just helps with the comfort levels and bits and pieces in the van. It's just a piece of old carpet from IKEA, and I did a video on that as well. So I'm trying to think, there's anything else. So generally speaking, what I'd say is we've had the major issues that we've had with the van were the engine compartments, obviously, because they're very expensive, and then just small little minor things like in the trim and so on, things that they've fixed as well. So we're coming up. Oh, those wind. That's another thing. We got the wind deflectors. They're a nightmare. So my one wasn't too bad, but Vanessa's one rattles a lot. So we've the ones that are fitted in with those little metal clips, and the little clips are they're just rubbish. If you're gonna get them, get the ones that are stuck on. So what I've had to do subsequently now is stick them in place with this double-sided sticky tape kind of stuff. So that's what I've had to do, and that's done the business. It stopped them rattling. But I mean, we went back and they drove around in the van for days trying to figure out how to stop those rattling, when all they had to do was probably just take them out and replace them, because we were getting this kind of mad rattling noise, and we couldn't figure out what it was, and it was driving us crackers. But really all it was just those things were just vibrating in the wind as you drove along, and they were just very irritating, trying to figure out what it was. And then through trial and error, by just basically sticking them down, that's done the business. They don't rattle anymore. But that's only, I mean, the van's nearly 3 years old. I only discovered that during the summer, so we've been trying to figure out for a long time what it was. I don't think, and obviously the obvious thing then is the tent. We got the tent, and because for space issues, you know, the tent is super handy. That's my electric blanket to keep me warm at night, which I do use, but not to a great extent. So yeah, so look, I think that's it. This video went on way longer than I thought. But what I would say is, look, I definitely highly recommend a van. It's fantastic, especially for day trips and stuff like that. You're into that kind of thing, and for trips away. The issues with it versus, say, the big white van, the issues that you have is that the van, you can just rock in a big white van, set up, and then head off and everything like that. The trade-off is the size, you know. So we go down little small narrow roads in this thing, and you can pull into car parks, and it's obviously quicker because it was a 2 litre, 200 horsepower thereabouts engine. So we often find on the motorways, for some reason, we seem to be passing those white vans all the time. So you can really, like, if we took the roof box off, the roof box limits us to 130 kilometers per hour. But if you took the roof box off, you could do on the autobahns 140, 150. I'm sure, you know, if you wanted to be, if you were so inclined. So yeah. Someone's alarm's gone off. So that's that. And with that, on the Saved by the Bell, I'll end the video there. So if you have any questions, give me a shout. Thanks, bye.